you know, it's about what is. Hopefully, it's about more. It's about more what makes me human and what makes me different than other humans.
Right. So as I mentioned before, I just finally got to see No Bikini. How did that come about? Because I've been hearing that it had, for a short film, a pretty high budget, and that's certainly reflected in the movie, which is just incredibly crisp and clear. And so how did that happen?
Claudio Morgado Escanilla, who's a Chilean-Canadian filmmaker, who I had the great fortune to work with back in before I was working as an artist full-time. I worked in the film industry in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
I worked props mostly, and I was working on this cheesy little television series called The New Addams Family, and she was, I know, it's really bad.
It reruns on Showcase all the time.
Yeah. Any of those continuity mistakes are probably my fault. Claudia was the continuity. What do they call it? Script supervisor.
Okay.
And I was the props, on-set props guy. And that was right when Boys Like Her came out. And No Bikini was a short story that was included in Boys Like Her, and she really liked it. She said it would make a great film. Mm-hmm. And I'm used to artists talking. And a lot of artists do a lot of fucking talking,
yeah.
right? So she said, yeah, I'd like to make that into a film. I said, yeah, okay. And then, you know, a couple years later, she got in touch with me, and she said, I want to buy the rights. I think it was for a big whopping $125. Quote me on that. That's what it was.
Nice.
Yep. And she's, you know, buy the rights to develop it, and I said, okay, sure. And then so 2003, we had some script meetings, and you know, I always wished her the best, but you know, I didn't know her well enough to know that, you know, she's like 5'2" of Chilean getting the shit done, and so she managed to. I think she raised about $60,000 to put it. It's a film, shot on 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
It had a DOP. It had. I mean, if you can tell, it's a beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's shot beautifully. Other than the script, and I did the voiceover.
Right.
And the short. It's based on my short story, loosely. I didn't have a lot to do with the production of it, so it was one of those exercises for me, where I'm usually pretty much a control freak over my projects, and well, I just want them to reflect me. Mm-hmm. You know, and the way to do that is to really, you know, be involved in the process.
Certainly.
This one was just an exercise in letting go and trusting her creative vision and her artistic merit, which, you know, was a good call on my part. She's a great filmmaker. She has a really beautiful aesthetic sense, and so it's one of those projects that looks nothing at all like what it would look like if I set out to do it, but I'm still really proud of the final result. In a way of like, it's a second cousin twice removed, not my own child. Mm-hmm. Although it is, you know,
your story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
And it is at least sort of loosely true.
Oh, it's a true story.
It's totally.
I did. I went through 6 weeks of swimming lessons. It was intermediate swimming lessons at the Lions Pool in Whitehorse, Yukon, probably around about 1975 or 76. And my mom was silly enough to buy me a bikini, so I just did the top part of the bikini. Right. It was my early cross-dressing experience, and I was obviously good enough that I earned it for many years to come.
Right. So film, is that something you want to sort of keep seeing your stories made into? Or no?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting process to see. The rights to Bogrip were just optioned.
Okay.
By a German filmmaker. I just did Douglas Copeland's short story. Everything is greener, all things.
Yeah.
Anyway, green. And you know, it's always interesting to see what sort of a flower can grow out of your seed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Interesting, but yeah.
Yeah.
And you're teaching now. So how did your teaching writing? How did that happen, and why?
In 2001, I got a call from a friend of mine's girlfriend who was supposed to be teaching a continuing ed class in experimental short fiction at Cap College, and 2 days before she started, she got a better job at Concordia and thought that I'd be a good teacher, and called me up, and I was like, I've never even taken a writing class. I wouldn't have the first clue. Mm-hmm. Right? She said, oh, I think you'd be pretty good. And So I just sort of threw myself in there. I had really no idea what I was doing. I must have done something right because I had one student who kept taking my class over and over and over again, and now has a 3-book deal with Penguin down in the States.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, it's something that I do partially because it's another way to to make money in a way that is related to writing. So it's keeps me off the day job treadmill.
Right.
And it has its reward. It's very draining. I find it really hard and really challenging to keep things exciting and to try to explain something. I don't actually think you can teach writing. That's the thing.
Okay.
You can provide provide deadlines, and you can provide inspiration, and you can provide a place for people to get feedback on their work. And that's basically all you can do. The only person who can teach you how to write would be you, in my humble opinion. And there's only one way to do that. So you're trying to teach something that's unteachable, for one thing. And at the same time pass on what I just consider just practical tips and tricks that I've learned, right? The actual process of learning to write is only done by hard work and discipline, and trying and failing and trying again and trying and succeeding and keeping at it. So I do it partly for the money, and I do it partly for the challenge that it presents, and I do it partly just to put something back, and to hopefully inspire other people, into creative careers, into accessing what I find to be the very transformative and powerful energy that is the creative process.
Okay, we're definitely running low on time, so I'll just do one last question here. So I was reading a few, somebody provided me with a cell phone to read a few reviews of some of your books, which was an interesting experience. Seeing how reviewers, who all loved your books, by the way, referred to you, and so there were, male and female things thrown around. So do you think that any of your stories change depending on whether the reader interprets them as a lesbian story or a trans story or a heterosexual male story?
I guess that would be really depend on the reader and how much they're involved and how much they have invested in the gender binary. So that would change from reader to reader.
And what would you hope, I guess?
Well, I mean, if it does change, I would hope that the person would maybe look at that and sort of think about what that means to them, that they're going to read something completely different depending. I mean, but we all do that. We all do that. I mean, I remember reading Wally Lamb's book, She's Come Undone, and being blown away that there was a man who had showed such insight into sort of women's body image issues and sexual abuse and then going, well, that's what a good writer does, is be able to bring you to a place you've never been before, and understand things that he or she may not have ever lived, so yeah, I guess it probably, there's lots of ways that things would, how could they not change based on what you think of the main character or the narrator, in this case, from a first person perspective. I know that a lot of people were like, oh, when Bogrim came out, the novel, the main character is a straight heterosexual mechanic, right? And I wanted to take that on as a challenge to step outside of first person memoir kind of writing and see if I could pull off another character. And from the response, I think that worked for some people. And yeah, I guess it would change depending on how much you had invested. I mean, if you really didn't care too much about the differences between men and women, or if there is differences, or how much you depended on those for your worldview, maybe it wouldn't change for you. But I think that's in a world that we haven't really that we're only in the process of constructing.
Right. Totally true. Okay, so if people want to check out your work, how do they go about that?
Go to your local independent freaky bookstore. If they don't have them, then they'll order them for you.
I was just discussing with someone that we're sure that Audrey's, which will be our local independent freaky bookstore, must carry your stuff, and that we're going to rush down there.
If they don't, then they'll for sure order them for you.
Definitely.
My CDs you can get online through my website,
which is
ivancoyote.com.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right.